no longer have universities as we have them today. We will no longer have universities as we have them today. These will change. Information will be on demand. Information will be commoditized. Knowledge will be commoditized. All of us will be smarter, have infinite amounts of storage, and infinite access to information. It will be unheard of. We will no longer be this isolated human being. We will be connected to everything. So if we examine our brain, we will realize that for over 100,000 years, our brain has remained the same. But the world around us has changed radically. So think about it. We have the same brain as a prehistoric cave person, as a Neanderthal. It's the same brain. But the world has totally changed. That is the power of our brain. It's very elastic. It can reprogram itself. But now, we're going to begin to change our brain. And we are doing this with new technology. Now, some of the basic technology out there, EEG, allows you to actually measure your brain waves. And these devices can tell if your concentration levels. They can be used to actually move a cursor on a screen. There are applications for these devices in entertainment. They're working on them for controls for games. In medical, these devices are being used for conditions like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and ADHD, and other conditions. And they're being used for education. They have applications now for children to study. And they measure their concentration levels and can actually change the applications as the children learn. But where we're headed, and let me tell you, 1 minute, is these devices are now capable of actually recording dreams, but not in a very granular way. In a very primitive way, they can actually capture and identify what a person is dreaming. So they have done studies where they've hooked these devices up to a person's head, they've had them dream, they woke them up, and then they asked them to recall memories in their dreams. And they read the patterns of the brain. And then the person goes back to sleep, and if they dream of the same things, they can recognize those patterns. Are developing brain chips. Now these are chips that can be inserted into the brain, and they are wireless. And let me show you. They have actually had a monkey that broke its back. So its spinal cord was severed. The monkey was paralyzed from the waist down. But they inserted a chip in the monkey's brain, and then they inserted another chip in its lower spine. And they allowed the brain to communicate with the lower spine. As soon as they did this, the monkey could walk again. That is amazing. Totally amazing. So they could actually transmit the thoughts of the monkey wirelessly to parts of the body. But it gets even more amazing than that. So they now have, in a laboratory, monkeys with chips in their brain. And then they have an electric wheelchair. And just by thinking, just with the thought of the monkey, they can drive the wheelchair around.
Just a few days earlier, this monkey was partially paralyzed. but wireless technology transformed its ability to move. The result of a project by a group of international scientists who were able to bypass the injured part of the animal's spine.
To decode the brain activity is not really new. To stimulate the spinal cord is not really new either, but the association of both and to make the link between the decoding of the brain and the stimulation of the spinal cord and to make this communication exist is completely new.
If you have an injury of the spinal cord, messages from the brain aren't able to reach beyond it down the nervous system, resulting in paralysis. Scientists created a brain-spinal interface on a monkey with a paralysed leg, implanting electrodes onto part of the brain that controlled the limb. The activity and information it recorded showed the movement the monkey intended to make and was sent to a computer, which was able to send messages to the wireless implant in the monkey's spine below the injury, stimulating the nerves, allowing it to move. Globally, 2.5 million people are paralysed due to traumatic spinal cord injuries. In the UK and Ireland alone, the charity Spinal Research says 3 people are told every day they'll never walk again due to this type of injury. Adapting this technology used by scientists in Switzerland to humans could be a long process.
This is the first time that a neurotechnology restores locomotion in primates, but there are many challenges ahead, and it may take several years before this intervention can become a therapy for humans.
This could be a positive step forward, but questions remain about how it would work in the human body and be adapted to every individual patient's needs. It could take years before that happens. Emma Hayward, Al Jazeera.
Think about that. If a monkey can do that, what could you do if you had that chip in your brain? They have also done experiments with monkeys with a chip in their brain and a robotic arm. And the monkey, just by thinking, can reach out and grab something like food and feed itself. That is amazing if you think about it. So the monkey's thoughts are actually able to control things outside their body. So when we start to think about the future, about where technology is headed, this is where we're going. We will have brain chips in humans. And the people who will get those brain chips first are people who suffer from severe medical conditions. So if you have a severe medical condition, like you're paralyzed from the neck down, or you suffer a brain disorder like Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, and that brain chip can restore your quality of life, would you hesitate to get the chip? No, of course not. You would say, put the chip in my brain. So that is starting right now, these experiments. And even more interesting, scientists have done experiments with rats, and they have chips in the rat's brain. And what they did was they taught a rat how to do certain things. And when the rat did all these complex things, it could get food. Now, it took the rat weeks to learn that. Weeks. But then they hooked the rat's brain chip to the internet. And they had another rat in another city. And instantly they connected those two rats' brains. And do you know what happened? The other rat knew how to get the food right away. It didn't have to learn anything. The knowledge was transferred from one brain of a living animal to another brain. That is amazing. That opens up a world of possibilities. Because if they can do that in rats today, imagine 10 years from now.
Sci-fi movies or bad TV, but new technology could soon make mind-reading devices a reality. Scientists at Duke University have developed a mind-reading reading device for rats that gives them shared thoughts.
On the right lever, the light showed up, the animal got it, the encoder is transmitting the information to the decoder is now decoding the message, press the right bar, and guess the reward.
The rats were connected by a wire sending signals from encoder to decoder, and the scientists at Duke tested rats as far away as Brazil and got similar results. They connected one rat's brain to another via fine wire and extended it over the internet. The rats' brains could communicate from thousands of miles away. But lead neuroscientist Miguel Nicolelis isn't stopping there. He told NBC News information could extend to other senses and many more rats. You could think about taste, vision. I don't see any problem doing this, he said, adding, I could see a swarm of rats be informed by one rat. Nicolelis' group is known for going above and beyond with some wild experiments.
Today, imagine 10 years from now what they can do in humans. And we will go there. So, mind-to-mind communication. This is something of science fiction that we all read about. But this is actually possible today, as I just showed you. So there will come a point where if we have a chip in our brain, and you out there have a chip in your brain, we can communicate. We can communicate without talking. So, if you look at a world where we have these chips that are connected to the internet, all of a sudden, every piece of information on the internet becomes accessible to our minds. Now, when we look back at today and we have to go to Baidu or Google and type it in, that will seem so primitive.
If you know what it means to be reborn, a sensate. A what?
Nobody will do that. You will just think, what knowledge do I need? And it will appear there for you to use. But it gets even weirder, stranger. Because we will not only be able to transfer knowledge, but we will be able to transfer memories. Now, so you could have an experience like skydiving, and all of a sudden you could transfer that experience to a friend.
You saw her. But that's just the beginning.
I can feel you. But you're not really here, are you?
You are no longer just you.
You will start to feel strange things. Anger and joy and pain. Pleasure without any reason.
And all of a sudden they have experienced what you have experienced. It gets even weirder.
We have 7 other selves now. We can access each other's knowledge, language, skill.
Because we will be living our lives as our lives. We know our lives and our memories. But you will all of a sudden have access to anybody's life who wants to make it available to you. People will put open source their lives.
Help me. Now it's just expanding.
So others can download pieces of their lives and experience those things. That will be really strange. We won't know the difference between our own memory and a memory we acquired from someone else.
Rembrandt. His name is synonymous with masterpiece, and this, arguably, one of his greatest paintings. An iconic work of individuals setting aside their differences for a common good. But what we see is not what people saw hundreds of years ago. How we see changes, because our senses are evolving. Sensates by their nature are a threat to secrecy. I'm looking for a better future. What's happening?
Do not trust any of them.
It is not a game. This is a war.
Your life is either defined by the system or by the way you defy the system.
2017. You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
And it sounds like it's right from a sci-fi movie, but people all over the world are implanting these into their wrists.
We're so attracted to our devices that they're basically becoming a part of our bodies. But what if they really could become a part of our bodies? Well, guess what? They can. Meet the RFID microchip.
In the quiet town of Mount Vernon, Washington, Emil Grafstra has capabilities unlike anyone around. To access his storage facility, all he has to do is raise his hand. To get into his car, again, put out his hand. Grafstra has 4 radio frequency identification tags in his hand and arm.
Many people thought that I was like working for the government with tracking devices or something. A lot of people were just upset about humans being treated like cattle. Back then it was death threat, death threat. Ooh, that's interesting, death threat, death threat. Now it's more like, ooh, that's kind of cool. What can it do? What can I do with it? And like, how much does it cost?
Similar to the tech used to track your pets or your phone. Once implanted in your body, it could identify you as you pass through the airport, open the door to your home. It could even be used to buy groceries at the supermarket.
Well, a grocery store with no checkout lines. Now that sounds good. Amazon is making it a reality. The .com giant unveiled a new brick-and-mortar store where it sells grocery essentials and pre-made meals. Customers check in at the entrance of the store using the Amazon Go app. Shoppers grab whatever they want and just leave. Amazon says it tracks purchases using computer vision and advanced sensor technology.
I can't believe he just paid with his hand. Like, you just literally put your hand up and you're good to go. Like, that's crazy.
Identification in a digital world is crucial, from voting to healthcare to online biometrics. Ensure the security of those transactions and ensure a fast, frictionless customer experience as well.
How did biometrics come about?
It really wasn't called biometrics, it was called fingerprinting, understanding that your fingerprints were a unique identifier to ensure that you were you. There's iris image, face, voice. Some people are working on gait biometrics in terms of how you walk. Innovations about bringing people what they didn't know they want. Aviation and travel, where there's all these bottlenecks and lines. Sports stadiums where you're seeing the same thing. Healthcare, where somebody wants to know that you are you and all the things associated with your healthcare. When you're taking out a credit card and payment. Longer term, voting, it's all places where somebody wants to ensure your identity. In the next 5 to 10 years, we will look back on pictures of all of us carrying around driver's license and credit cards and keys and question why we did that, sort of like my kids now question the rotary phone.
More now of our special coverage here tonight, life in the U.S. in 10 years' time. By that time, there may be all kinds of new ways to safeguard and identify all those things that make each of us unique, our faces, even our fingerprints, even our eyes.
The technology is based on answering one simple question. Am I who I say I am?
Already, fingerprints and iris scans verify passenger identities at airports. Within 10 years, that technology may be even more widespread. And look for more complex facial recognition programs that scan a crowd of thousands looking for a single terrorist. Today's facial recognition software starts with the eyes. Then it maps out the contours of the face and compares that against a database of millions, a database that's growing by the day. Experts say that technology is here now.
And do you ever get tired of remembering all those passwords? Well, one high-tech office block in Sweden thinks it has the answer.
So this is how I unlock my phone nowadays. So usually people would type a PIN code, but I just touch this and the phone is unlocked.
It might look like magic, but he's implanted a microchip the size of a grain of rice into his hand. They can operate computers, photocopy machines, and open doors with a wave. But many do have concerns over privacy, concerns those on the project told us are completely unfounded.
A man recently became the first person to get on a flight without a boarding pass. Instead, he used just a chip that was implanted in his hand. The Swedish man boarded the jet in Stockholm and posted the video on YouTube. The video also showed the process of implanting the chip, which is about the size of a grain of rice.
10,000 people have already been chipped, and the number is growing.
The elites have already chipped millions of people while they have slept, when they were put under, during surgical procedures and received medical device implants. Did you know that medical technology companies began to secretly implant chips into devices like hip implants, total knee replacements, titanium rods, medical mesh, pacemakers and defibrillators, prosthetics, and even breast implants now contain small microchips inside of them. There are millions of people on Earth who walk around with these implants. The conspiracy to place microchips into people began back in the first decade of this century. The problem is that everybody was focused on VeriChip. What they didn't realize is that chipping began before VeriChip was mass marketed, roughly around the years 2007 through 2008, the year of Obama's election. Millions of microchips are sitting inside of people's bodies as a part of a medical device.
Change happens. Change happens because the American people demand it.
Eventually what's happening is that we are being led bit by bit through, to use the Skinnerian term, from shaping, through the successive approximation to ultimately having within our bodies an RFID chip that will be implanted, that people will stand in line and in queues for to have, so that ultimately we will have in our bodies, because what we're doing right now, Lindsay, is we're slowly moving towards that. We went from the desktop to the laptop to the phone to the watch, and now we're having little tats, tattoos, little biometrics, all of them leading to the ultimate goal, and that is an RFID, a radio frequency identification or similar chip, to be placed subcutaneously. And that chip, Lindsay, will have everything about you there is. Your bank account, your GPS location, and you will do it. You will get one. Because after all, it will also have the siren call of medical information. And then one day, God forbid, not you, one day when people are found guilty of, let's say, crimes, they're not going to be put into the Hoosgow, in the pokey. No, their chip is going to be turned off and poof.
All right, this next story may sound like something out of, well, a Hollywood thriller. A Saudi inventor has created a killer microchip. It's designed to track terrorists and criminals and, well, you can think of somebody. Not only does it include a GPS device, it also has a lethal dose of cyanide, which can be activated at any time. You get my point? This is pretty macabre, pretty sinister and nefarious. How exactly would this work?
Well, there's a category of technology that involves GPS tracking systems being shrunk down to the size where you could actually implant it surgically. And we've seen a number of applications for this. This is without question the most sinister version of it that I've certainly heard of. And the notion of tracking criminals is not new, but the notion of killing them remotely, I think, is a whole new thing.
They don't exist anymore. That's where all of this is going.
There will be a time when humanity will be forced to take a mark, and that mark will be on the right hand or the forehead. And people who do not take that mark, of course, will not be able to buy or sell.
The scripture she's referring to is Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 18.
Some people say RFID will be the mark of the beast because it can be a mark in your hand that you can transmit. If it isn't, and it may well not be, there may well be something that comes next beyond that to become to fulfill that biblical prophecy. But every one of those steps was getting us closer to that end destination.
From someone else. Think about that. It gets even stranger. So, all of us are here learning at Siebes, right? Getting EMBAs and MBAs. Well, this will be obsolete because Siebes will literally be in the cloud. And you will just download from all the best minds in the world whatever you need to know when you need to know it. Our brains will be, we will no longer have universities as we have them today. That will change. Information will be on demand. Information will be commoditized. Knowledge will be commoditized. All of us will be smarter, have infinite amounts of storage, and infinite access to information. It will be unheard of. We will no longer be this isolated human being. We will be connected to everything. So, you can imagine not only will we be able to get knowledge, but we can actually have full experiences in our head. So right now we have these clunky VR units that we have to put on. But in the future, you can just download a whole environment and actually live in it. And all of you might think, this is not real. But do you know every night when you dream, those dreams are real. No matter how fantastic your dreams are, they are real. You feel like you're really there. Our brains have that capability already built in. All it takes is the technology to stimulate and transfer the right images in our brain so our brain creates them, and then we will live like the difference between us dreaming and reality will be blurred. We will be spending a lot of time outside our body. Think about this. You, as a human being, right now are trapped in this body. But once you are connected to the internet, you are no longer trapped in your body. You can actually be anywhere at any time that any other person or any other device is getting sensory information. So there could be a robot on Mars, and you could literally tap into the robot on Mars and it would be like you're on Mars. It could totally recreate the experience, including the sensations, the physical sensations, like everything of you being on Mars. You can live through other people. Your favorite pop star, your favorite scientist. You could be in Elon Musk's head right now, walking around doing what he's doing, if Elon Musk allowed you to do that. It gets so strange because our senses now, we have our 5 senses of our body. But suddenly, if we are connected to a world of intelligent machines and intelligent sensors all over, we will no longer have 5 senses. We will have access to hundreds of sensory input, infrared, right? All these UV, all these different types of senses that we never even experienced before. It will radically change how we perceive existence. So if you start to go down this path, you see, we won't even be, our life today will be totally alien to us. We will be living in a whole nother reality. that is blending information, sensory information, data information, memories, all of this from all around the world in this vast internet. And that will and can happen. So let's go even further. Experiencing other lives. So all of us experience things in our life. But now we will be able to have many lives. You can have many lives because you can access other people in other places and live through them. And if you want to think about this, it can be almost like heaven. Why do I say this? Because if you study every major religion in the world, every religion, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, what those religions promise us is that we will escape our bodies in the future. We will go to some heaven or nirvana or a state of non-being or state of inclusiveness with everybody. No longer will we and our consciousness be confined to our bodies as an individual. In fact, if you look at us right now as a human being, if I feel pain, if I'm in pain, nobody else can feel the pain I feel. If you're in pain, I can't feel your pain. I can feel sorry for you. I can empathize with you, but I cannot feel your pain. But in this world, we will actually be able to feel the emotions of other people. You can actually not just transfer data and sensory information, but emotions. I would know your pain, you would know our pain, and human beings would never be alone. So, we will come to a point where we, as gods, like gods, will be creating our own reality. We will be redefining what the human experience is for the first time in history. This can happen, and it will happen, but what we want to think about is this. Technology is really powerful. The internet, being connected, is really powerful, but we've already seen in a very primitive way, just with our cell phones, these primitive devices, how it can totally change our life. Like all of our lives are changed by WeChat. All of our lives are changed by the internet. Well, we are embarking on a path now where we will become the internet. The internet will become us. They will be inseparable. We'll have our storage and everything else all over the place. And when we do that, we have to understand that this is a big responsibility. It's something we as a society, we as the human race, must think about very, very carefully. Because imagine, people can hack your cell phone now. People can hack your computer, and it can be bad. They can steal your banking information, take all your money. They can steal your identity, but they can't really hurt you. In the future, though, if somebody hacks into your head because it's connected to the internet, they can steal you. They can actually steal you. They can implant memories in your head that you don't have. They could erase memories. They could control you in ways that you wouldn't even know you're being controlled. Is this scary? So I painted on the hand a heaven, but there is also a hell, right? This is heaven and hell. We are on the cusp of this technology that is so powerful and has the potential to so radically transform our lives and our existence, and we have to be very careful about how we do this. We don't want people controlling us. So think about this. Think very carefully. Everybody in this room are very smart people. You're all highly educated. We are going to be making these decisions that lay the groundwork for this technology in our lifetime. And those decisions will affect the rest of humanity more than any decisions we have made in the past.